everyone, it's Christy. So today I wanted to talk about something that almost no one is discussing, even though the data is staring us right in the face, and that is that GLP-1 medications may actually be one of the most interesting longevity drugs that we have at the moment. Not because of the weight changes and not because of the online hype, but because of what they do for metabolic health, for inflammation, for cardiovascular risk, and even long-term mortality. So let's break it down the right way. Most of what we hear online about GLPs is fear-based. We hear about the side effects, the horror stories. These are mainly from people taking way too much and the drama that comes with overuse or misuse. But the things that actually shorten our lifespan, like cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and cancer risk, these are exactly the areas where GLP-1s have shown some very unexpected and very compelling data. And let's get into that. So this isn't just a weight loss conversation, it's a metabolic health conversation, and metabolic health is longevity. Cardiovascular disease is still the leading cause of death in both men and women, and if we're talking about longevity, this is going to be the starting point. Across very large trials like the LEADER trial, the REWIND, SUSTAIN 6, SELECT, these are trials with GLP-1 drugs from liraglutide to semaglutide, and GLP-1s are consistently showing reductions in major cardiovascular events. So everything from fewer heart attacks, fewer strokes, fewer cardiovascular related deaths. And these aren't small effects. We're talking double-digit improvements in long-term outcomes. For a drug class that was not even built for cardiology, that's pretty remarkable, something that we should be paying attention to. Now let's talk about cancer. So this is the part that surprises people the most. Several large observational studies have shown meaningful reductions in multiple cancers among GLP-1 users. So everything from pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, endometrial, liver, breast. These reductions are pretty dramatic. Now let's talk about the all-cause mortality data. So this is the part that gets buried every time, and I don't know why. Some of the largest data sets are showing a 10 to 14% reduction in all-cause mortality, meaning people using GLP-1 medications for metabolic health are far less likely to die from any cause. There are very few interventions on the planet with mortality reductions like that, and yet people still just want to talk about these peptides through the lens of weight loss. This is a much bigger picture. Before we wrap up, I want to zoom out and connect this to the hallmarks of aging. These are the cellular pathways that determine how we age, how we accumulate disease, and how long we stay healthy. And I'm referencing this paper here. Every major longevity therapy, from metformin to rapamycin to mitochondrial peptides, NAD, they all work by influencing one or two of these hallmarks. And I actually have a video coming up about that. GLP-1s actually touch multiple hallmarks at the same time. Let's start with nutrient sensing. All right, GLP-1s restore insulin sensitivity. We know that. They stabilize our glucose dynamics, they improve metabolic signaling, and nutrient sensing is one of the core hallmarks tied to lifespan, and it's across basically every species. So that's really important, and obviously we know that GLP-1s are driving that. Next is inflammation, chronic low-grade inflammation or inflammaging. This drives everything from cardiovascular disease to cancer risk. GLP-1s consistently show reductions in inflammatory markers and also improvements in our vascular inflammation, which is probably why we're seeing the reduction in the cardiovascular disease. And mitochondria. So these peptides improve metabolic flexibility, they reduce oxidative stress, they support healthier, more resilient mitochondria, which is another central hallmark of aging. Most people think that mitochondria just make energy, but they're running half the cell and getting zero appreciation for it. So they not only drive ATP production, but they also drive fat burning, hormone synthesis, inflammation control. They even decide whether damaged cells get to live or die. And they regulate your circadian rhythm, your immune function, your brain performance, and your metabolic flexibility. So when mitochondrial health declines, every hallmark of aging speeds up. And when you improve mitochondrial health, everything seems to get better. It's no secret, and this is why GLP-1s really fit into this piece nicely. And then there's senescence. So GLP-1s aren't senolytic drugs, but the downstream effects of lower inflammation, better glucose control, improved mitochondrial health, this is creating an internal environment that's less likely to accumulate senescent inflammatory cells to begin with. So, why do GLP-1s keep outperforming expectations? Well, it's because they're not just working on appetite or food cues, although they are doing that. They're also influencing core biological pathways that determine our health span and our lifespan. This is exactly why we're seeing improvements in cardiovascular outcomes, reductions in certain cancers, and that lower all-cause mortality rate. You're improving the terrain of the body, the cellular environment, not just the number on the scale. Now, of course, that's important too, but we need to look at the bigger picture of what these are really driving in terms of longevity. Now, before anyone comes at me, let me be very clear. I'm not telling anyone to start this medication. I'm not saying it's risk-free. I'm not selling this as a miracle longevity pill. But from a scientific perspective, the long-term impact, the longevity impact of GLP-1s is one of the most underrated stories in the modern metabolic medicine. And I just wanted to get that message out there. So don't come at me. Now, if you use them wisely, you get monitored, you avoid extreme dosing, and make decisions based on your health profile, your personal health profile, not TikTok or not fear mongering, then you can have really good results with these medications if it's warranted. I'm not saying it's for everyone. Work with your physician, but they can have dramatic impacts on not just the scale, not just diabetes, but overall health span and lifespan if used in the right context. If you found this helpful, subscribe because I have a whole series coming up on GLP-1s and brain health, metabolic remodeling. We talk a lot about peptides. I talk about protecting muscle while on GLPs and how GLPs fit into a full longevity strategy. And if you want deeper support, I have two options. You can work with me one-on-one, or you can join my private peptide and longevity community where I teach all of this in much more detail. We have courses and all kinds of information to binge on. Both of those are linked below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.